Welcome to the deep dive. We look at different sources and try to pull out the insights.
Yep, cutting through the noise.
Today, we're tackling something I think hits home for a lot of us, especially, younger adults, families starting out maybe.
Yeah, how do you keep your faith when things just fall apart, when life gets really unpredictable?
We're digging into a sermon from Praise Presbyterian Church. It uses, the ancient story of Job.
And also a really powerful modern story. Very tragic.
Right, and the goal here is to kind of understand how people react to hardship and maybe find a more, stable foundation for faith, something solid even when things don't go our way.
Exactly. Finding that anchor.
Okay, so let's jump into that modern story from the sermon. It's heartbreaking.
It really is. A pastor's 4-year-old son died. An accident in the church parking lot right after service.
Just awful. And the sermon talked about how some young adults reacted when they discussed it, and the reactions were all over the place.
Yeah, you had the raw shock, the how could God let this happen if he's real kind of doubt.
Understandable.
Totally. Then there were those trying to make sense of it, like maybe it was just random chance, like God handles the big picture, but maybe not every little awful thing on earth, sort of outside his control.
Trying to find an explanation.
And then the third reaction mentioned was more traditionally religious, maybe, that God took the child.
Took him? Why?
To make the pastor a better servant, like a trial, like Job, for a greater blessing later.
Wow. And the sermon shared the pastor's own reaction to that idea.
Yes, and it was so honest. First, just frustration, like took a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
And then that turned into fear. He prayed, God, please don't take my kids. I don't need to be better that badly.
That vulnerability, that honesty, it's powerful.
It really is. And it sets up what the sermon calls circumstantial faith.
Okay, what's that exactly?
It's faith based on, quote, my ability to see God in my circumstances.
Ah, so if things look good, I see God. Faith is strong. If things look bad.
Exactly. It gets shaky, it's unstable, it's easily broken when tested.
Makes sense. Like the examples. You pray hard for a test, you study, you still fail.
Or your business goes under despite everything, or you get sick and, you don't get healed.
It leads straight to doubting God's goodness, or even if he's there at all.
And it feels very self-centered, doesn't it? Like, God's job is just to make my life work out. He's a means to my ends.
Which connects right back to Job, chapter 1, like you mentioned.
Precisely. Satan's accusation is basically Job's faith. It's purely circumstantial. He only serves God because he's blessed.
Take it all away, Satan says, and he'll curse you.
And God allows the test. Job loses everything, property, servants, and then unimaginably all 10 of his children in one day.
His first reaction is amazing strength, though. The Lord gave, the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord.
Incredible. But as the sermon points out, Job does struggle later, deeply. He questions, he asks, why me? He cries out, how can you do this? It's so relatable.
So Job's asking God these huge, agonizing questions. How does God respond?
Well, interestingly, not with a neat, tidy answer. He responds with questions of his own.
Oh, like what?
Like over 70 of them in chapters 38 to 41. Things like, where were you when I laid the earth's foundation?
Wow. So not really answering the why directly.
No, it's more like God is correcting Job's perspective, establishing his place and Job's place. God is God, Job is not. The universe doesn't actually revolve around Job.
That hits that why me question hard. The sermon suggests maybe the question should be, why not me?
Exactly. It challenges our inherent self-centeredness. We're not the center. God's existence, his goodness, doesn't depend on my personal outcomes being positive all the time.
That forces a pretty big shift, doesn't it? From self-centered faith to God-centered faith.
It does, and Job gets it. After hearing God, he says things like, I am unworthy. I spoke of things I did not understand. There's a kind of peace in recognizing his place before God's sovereignty.
So his circumstantial faith gets shattered. But it's not just God putting him in his place, is it?
No, not at all. That's a crucial part. God knew Job. He boasted about him before the trial.
Right, it's chapter 1.
The creator of everything paid attention to Job. He listened to his complaints. He talked back to him. The sermon says, this is the gospel.
How so?
Because even though the universe runs on God's vast plan, his heart is for us. He holds people, dust-like beings, the sermon says, like you and me, in his heart. He loves us.
Even with all the suffering and evil in the world.
Yes, nothing happens randomly outside his purpose. Evil is real, suffering is real, but God is still sovereign and he loves us.
So the difficulties,
Yeah.
they aren't meaningless.
The point made is that God actually uses that material, the evil, the suffering, the hard stuff, to accomplish his good work.
Okay, how does that work? Where's the answer?
The ultimate answer presented is the cross.
Jesus.
Yes. The cross solves this tension between God's power, his goodness, and the reality of evil. Jesus' death wasn't random. It was God entering into suffering. God used the evil actions of humans as the very material for salvation.
God suffers with us because he holds us in his heart.
That's the core idea.
So it's still okay to pray for things. For my business, my health, my family.
Absolutely. The sermon stresses that. God delights in us bringing our needs to him. He'll use those prayers in his plan. BD.
But the outcome of the prayer or the state of my circumstances, that can't be the foundation.
That's the key. That cannot be the foundation of your faith.
So in tough times, instead of why me, maybe ask,
What kind of God are you? Suffering can actually be a strange kind of opportunity to know God more deeply, even if we can't see the whole picture. We have to admit our understanding is limited.
move beyond that shaky circumstantial faith.
By focusing on Jesus Christ. Anchor your faith not in what's happening around you, but in the unchanging love shown at the cross and the power of the resurrection.
God's good character becomes the anchor that keeps you stable in the storm.
Right. Trust him. Even when you have questions, like Job did, turn towards the sovereign God who holds you. He uses suffering often to help us move past our self-focus and see his bigger plan.
Okay, so wrapping this up, the big takeaway seems to be this question for you listening. Is your faith built on shifting circumstances? Or is it anchored deep in the unchanging character and love of God we see in Jesus?
Yeah, that shift from being self-centered to God-centered, that's where real peace and stability come from, no matter what life throws your way.
And maybe you just pause and consider this. How does recognizing God's incredible vastness and his incredibly personal love for you right in the middle of your struggles, how does that change things?
It changes everything. Remember Psalm 46? God is our refuge and strength and ever-present help in trouble. That's the foundation.